Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so companies can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Kim Boudreau. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Annie. It's so nice to be here. Thank you.
You are very, very welcome. So before we get started, before we start this podcast, Kim, I'd like to give a big shout out to Christy Clayton, who introduced us. We actually met when we were both presenters at her conference. Gosh, it was, this fall. We went to the conference and she put a really beautiful conference together with a lot of women, a lot of content. And it is for female integrators, so she definitely has a passion for that. And Christy was on my podcast twice, and I will include the notes to that episode, the links to those episodes in the show notes so people can actually review it. But thank you, Christy, for the great introduction. So she's definitely a great connector.
Yeah, she is. She is.
Absolutely. So now, but let's talk about you now, Kim. So you are a bold, truth-telling leadership and communication consultant who help brilliant women in healthcare stop leading from the imposter identity and start leading with vocal authority. You work with physicians, dentists, veterinary professionals, holistic practitioners, and healthcare administrators who are tired of being brilliant but muted and ready to speak up, influence decisions, and own the room.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing. So do you find that a lot of women in those professions are actually not speaking up or quiet? What do you run into?
That's a great question. And it's just not in that profession of the healthcare ecosystem. It's women in general in male dominant type rooms. They are not speaking up truthfully, I'll use the word because that other A word is overused, authentically. And what's happening is they're still performing, improving, and they come across as being very robotic and not, fake. Just they come across as being fake, or they don't know. I mean, they're brilliant in their profession. Do not get me wrong, they're brilliant. They just don't know how to get into bigger leadership roles, is what it is going on. And it's all communication.
Absolutely. So what are some of the things that you recommend for them to do? So let's say you start working with somebody. Let's take a dentist. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So brilliant dentist, she's very good at what she does. What do you notice when you start working with somebody like that?
Well, that's so interesting. I just started just here recently in my backyard. I just started going to a new dentist, and oh my gosh, her practice, it was my first time. It was absolutely beautiful. And we started talking business. And I asked her, I said, so how are you getting out there? How are you getting seen and heard to make the business more viable? And here's what I get every single time. Ooh, I got to do that. And it's like, well, no, you really don't have to do that. But then you become the best kept hidden secret. So it's your choice. So that's a lot of the stuff I help these women do is when they are entering rooms is to really be able to speak up and stop leaving opportunities on the table. They take it all up and letting go of the outcome, be more visible, whether it's in a structure where they want to go up in higher level leadership positions, or it's in their business and they want it to be more visible and, of course, viable, more profitable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so you get that reaction. How do you
Yeah.
overcome that reaction?
Well, again, it's such a pain point for women, all the nervousness and, the spotlight and don't ruffle feathers, all the things that society has told us over the years, which kind of feeds the imposter, and it also feeds that critical dialogue. So one of the things I always like to say to women is, you have to get out there. You have to get out there and be visible. And it's a lot easier than what your critical dialogue is telling you. And there's simple steps to take. I mean, I would not say to someone, well, get up there and deliver an hour-long keynote so that you're very visible. I think it would really overwhelm somebody who has done not a lot of presenting. I would start something simple of just let's practice on networking and how you're going to introduce yourself. And then the next steps would be let's look at a panel, how you sit on a panel where people, or let's discuss some podcast interviews. Take some of that pressure off. And then I help them get to lifetime because a lot of women are like, well, when I get out there, it gets me going just a little bit and then I get going. No, you have to warm up before the curtain goes up and then be ready to go.
That's interesting. So, okay, so first of all, do something that you feel comfortable with. So maybe a podcast interview or a panel, or maybe get interviewed for a magazine or whatever where you can actually shine and show your thought leadership and your ability to express yourself, your opinions, and who you are. So I think it's a great idea. And then what does that mean to be ready for lifetime?
Well, for the lifetime to be ready. So it's like you and you come over to my house, of course, in the summertime. I would not want you here in Michigan in the wintertime. Come on up in the summertime and we like, okay, we're going to go walk. Let's do a 4 mile walk. Let's just, get our fitness in. But we want to walk at a big, fast pace. I'm going to say to you, no problem. We're going to walk out my front door and we're going to go a few houses that way. But I'm not going to walk at that fast pace. I need a warm up before we get to that fast pace. So I call them pre-stage warm-ups, pre-rehearsal warm-ups, pre-stage rituals, anything like that, which could be like breathing, pausing, role playing with a trusted source before you actually get into the live time. It may be working with teams and you want the team meetings to be more productive, less a lot of times around stories, more productive, more engaging. So then maybe there's some practicing involved and agendas to be created. That's what that's what I mean by the pre-rehearsal, pre-stage rituals.
I love that. Can you share, I mean, you shared some, but can you share your best tips or any tips about how to make it work, or what can, let's say we have a listener right now that wants to know how to do it right now. What would you say?
Well, first of all, I always like to, especially when you're leading teams and you have team meetings and they're weekly meetings, and your team is dreadful, or coming into these meetings, or let's say it's virtual and it's online and you just can't get everybody to come to the table. I'm a big one on breaking the ice. Hey, everybody, how are you doing? How was your holidays? How was your weekend? Just get a little bit into that before you start going into a pre-agenda. When there's clarity involved in meetings, people feel more at ease and they're more comfortable to share ideas when they know where the meeting is going. They also like the meetings better. They find it to be more productive when there's agendas and a clarity involved. And all leaders, look, we are all, first of all, in my opinion, I believe everybody's a leader. We're human. Humanize the meetings, humanize your presentations, humanize when you are out there networking. It's just finding those little golden nuggets, I like to call.
I love it. So give me an example of how you can humanize the networking event, for instance. You're going to a networking event. How can you humanize that connection? or the
Okay.
connections you're making.
Okay, so you and I are network. Well, actually, you and I just did this like a few months ago here. So you and I are hi, how are you? Oh, tell me a little bit about what you do, and vice versa. Tell me a little bit about what you do. Oh, great. Well, I always like to ask questions like, so what brought you here? And whether it was a plane, an automobile, or something, but what else brought you here? I like to add a little humor to things, which that's just my personality. And then I always like to start asking some questions of, is this your first time at this event? What other events do you go to? Tell me a little bit about yourself. I'm digging for the personal because that's how the relationships are built. I want to know, maybe there's something there's that we could have in common. That maybe you are a power walker. Well, I'm a power walker. Or maybe you have a black lab. Well, we don't have children. I have a dog. We have one dog. We just lost our other dog a couple months ago. I'm looking for those personal type connections because facts tells, stories sell. And we remember those humanizing type stories, those golden, we remember that. I mean, I could walk out of a event meeting you, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What was her business? What did she do? Wait a minute. But there was this. And then that helps me when I get back into my office.
Absolutely, because that's the connection. It's making friends, right? Being friendly. So
Yes.
definitely, I completely agree. How do you humanize a meeting, a work meeting?
Well, I've got my sleeves are very full of things that you could do, and humanizing a work meeting is, like I said, it's opening up the meetings, just getting in. Hi, how are you? I always, depending upon the level of the management and the type of the meeting, I always like to do like an icebreaker, go around the room, something, okay, what's your favorite food and what's your favorite color, just to learn more about each other. Things like just to loosen things up. Or it could be, all right, in this meeting today, I'm just making this up. I'm going to play Aerosmith, my favorite band, and we're all going to stand up and let's shake it. Now we can sit down and now let's get to business. There's so many different things you can do. There's interactive type activities just to take the edge off of people. We're in such a high driving society. Gotta go, get things done. Da, 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 go fast, 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 fast. Pile more on that sometimes we have to pause. We do need to pause and take those fun moments before we get down into the business.
That's beautiful. That's really creating that human connection is so important, especially in the AI world that we live in, right?
Yes, absolutely. We
What's your
really,
take on that? Like, where do you see AI being used in the work that you are doing when you're coaching your clients? What's your approach to that?
well, I do encourage AI. I mean, it would be like not having internet. I do encourage AI, but I encourage AI to be better at cutting our times on things. So, for me, for an example, I am not a Google researcher. You tell me to research and I'm out the door. I am flatline, I'm bored. Whereas I use my AI to go do that for me and it does it quicker if I need some data or stats. If I'm creating content, I will talk to my AI. I will get on my phone and talk so it can capture my voice and I will say, here's my topic, here's what I'm struggling with, here's what I've seen, here's what's going on out there, here's the solutions I like to provide. Will you tidy that up? And then I take it and then I chemize it and then I'll send it back and say, make it very marketable. I mean, there's so many different ways of AI. If you're a type of person, which I'm very guilty of, sitting here going, what do I want to post today on LinkedIn? Well, I can get stuck. And then before you know it, it's 15, 20 minutes of my time gone. And I just throw my arms up and go, done. That's where AI can come into some assistance. I think possibly AI is not there for us to take our voices completely over. And that's where we're losing the trust factor of the human beings out there right now.
Yeah. How will we overcome that?
Well, it's being able to show up. I mean, being able to be, I'm going to use the word, it's thrown around a lot, but it's really learning how to embrace our true selves and how we show up in business. That word, authentic. I hear a lot of people, oh, I just want to be more authentic. Well, it's not like it's not like going to the store and I just want to buy a warmer jacket, because I live in Michigan. Either you are being authentic or you're not. And I'm very concerned a lot of people are going to lose that authenticity with this AI and get lost in it. And AI is not the first thing they'll get lost in. Look at the internet, how we as humans can get a little lost in that, and social media and things like that. All as human beings, we're gonna have to be very, very discerning how we utilize it. It's just a tool. I use it for a lot of helping me with my content creation, as long as I put my words in. I'm the last one in on that. So we have to be careful.
Absolutely. So that's why what you are offering and what you are coaching people is even more important now, because in order to really stand out and differentiate yourself, you got to be yourself, because that's really the truth of it. And then, as you said, Kim, so eloquently, is use the AI in order to bring out your true self, who you are, and write the content that is correct to you,
Yes.
how you do it. But you got to, first of all, know that you're there, because the worst thing is you write these beautiful articles and then you show up to a networking event and you don't say anything. So yeah, the AI was great in writing your articles, but then you show up and it's not you. So there has to be a continuity between who you are and what you produce and how you communicate, right? It all has to be congruent. It has to be the same.
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, I just had this conversation a couple days ago. We could be the most polished speakers. We could be the best communicators, and it's a skill. Anyone can be very effective communicator. It's a skill. It's a practice. We could have the best graphics out there, or be the best person taking selfies, which that I am not, but it doesn't matter unless you're showing up as yourself. None of this is going to work. In fact, it's going to repel people that are looking for your true north light, that want to be attracted to you.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. So, Kim, you work mainly with healthcare practitioners. Is that true?
Yes, I'm with healthcare practitioners in the ecosystem. Yes, and also mainly women that are really sitting in male dominant rooms, which there's a lot of male dominant rooms out there to this day.
Absolutely. So if our listeners would like to get a hold of you, how can they reach out to you?
There's a couple of places. You could just go ahead and jump on over to my website at kimb.smith.com, or you can come on over to LinkedIn and I'm Kim Boudreau Smith in LinkedIn. And if you do come over to LinkedIn, just come into the back end and just say where you found me at, and use Audie's name, please.
Awesome. 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 Okay, good. Well, Kim, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast. I appreciate your knowledge. And I think you brought up a very important subject of the importance of communication. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.